Hey fellow tankers, this is Mobius Y once again with some more game replays. Now my game replays are typically just games where I upload them to share with you guys and I add some commentary over them. This one's going to be a little bit different because these are my first two games in the Tier 5 tank destroyer, the T67. As I mentioned in the previous episode of Tanker Talk, I am working towards the T110E4 as it is kind of a necessity for our clan Immortals to get some more T110E4s in it, seeing as how we're pretty short on them at the moment. And some of our battle strategies incorporate the use of T110E4. So I took it upon myself to say, I'm going to drop what I'm doing. I'm going to put a big pause button on my Chinese heavy grind, and I'm going to grind out for the T110E4 because I want to be a better asset to our clan, especially for when Clan Wars comes out. So the T67, I didn't really know a heck of a lot about it. It branches off from the M8A1, which is the Tier 4 United States turreted tank destroyer. So I figured it would be kind of more of the same, where it's a fairly mobile tank with a pretty good gun for its tier, but basically no armor. And that is exactly how it is. Using a combination of a good camo rating, good mobility, as I said, a good gun, and pretty dang good gun depression, allowing you to get shots where you need them. This tank is the definition of a sniping tank destroyer. Absolutely. And this very first game here is what set the bar really high for me on this T67. I was quite pleased with this performance here on Severogorsk. So knowing that this thing has essentially no armor, and there's quite a few bad tanks on the other team. There's a Ram Panzer and a couple tanks with derp guns. I came back to this position here on Severogorsk where I'm sitting and lined up to get shots on the corner where a lot of the major battles happen. That's the important thing with playing a sniper TD, as far as my understanding is that, you know, you see a lot of people that just drive off to a random bush and they go, oh, I got a great sight line down here. I'm going to shoot everybody who comes down this way. I'm going to get so much damage. I'm going to do so good. And then, you know, they wind up doing nothing for the whole game because they parked in just literally some random bush off in the corner of the map and are looking down a pathway or a roadway where nobody ever goes normally. So, as a tank destroyer with this kind of play style, it's important to set up in a position where you can get shots on corners or down laneways, you know, such as roads or various valleys in the terrain where a lot of traffic's going to come through, and you just put supporting shots down range and get some supporting damage in, which is exactly what I'm doing here. And of course, as soon as I got spotted, I backed way the hell off. I wanted to preserve my HP and keep myself alive as best as I could here. So, this first game here went pretty well. I got quite a lot of really early shots in on all those tanks. The 76mm gun on the final package of this tank is pretty good. Not bad at all. Like I said, the only downside to this tank and a few tanks of this line, including the M8A1, the T67, and the M18 Hellcat, they essentially have no real armor to speak of. But their turrets turn very, very slowly. If I remember right, the Hellcat's turret traverses 12 degrees per second, and this one's not much better, so it's really bad. So, in trying to escape from the Ram Panzer ramming me to death, I tried to do a drive-by here on the Panzer III-4. You'll see that the turret can't even turn quickly enough to keep up with it, not even close. So I simply auto-locked the KV-1 and put a round into the KV-1 just to get some more damage while I'm running away. I just kicked it into high gear, really put this mobility into its paces, drove through this little riverbed on Severogorsk to just get away from these guys that were chasing me, especially that Panzer V-4. I knew he was weak, but that didn't matter. And this poor guy in the Martyr too, he tries to cut me off, but in the end he throws himself into the river face first and gets taken out. Poor guy. So, really entertaining result here. I was not expecting to actually get all the way across the map with no resistance in this game, for sure. It was just a hilarious turnout. Coming up on this Matilda, he's not paying any attention whatsoever. So I got a nice shot into his backside and set him on fire while disabling his engine. That tends to happen a lot, is people don't notice when you're beside or behind them until you're actually shooting them and, you know, dealing damage to them. I'm on life support at this point, but I still managed to finish off the Matilda, finish what I started, and then I get 2 more shots in the Churchill to take him out too. And then right before I get destroyed, I was trying to turn and take out that Ram Panzer, but the Badger manages to line up on me while I'm sitting still and takes me out of the game. A hilarious first game in the T67. Really putting this thing through its paces and playing it to its strengths. Of course, we lost that game because the rest of my teammates had all been camping back at the base. Had I known that, I would have pulled back to them and had them try and help me out, but they didn't last long once the enemy team pushed our base. 17 damage, 3 tanks destroyed on my very first game in the T67. Definitely set a very good impression for me with the T67, and a really funny game. I was just so amazed that I could drive all the way across the map down that riverbed on Severogorsk. That's actually a pretty good escape route for a fast tank if nobody's sitting there waiting for you ready to take you out. That Martyr 2 very well could have taken me out, but unfortunately they drove off the bridge and face planted. So this next game here on Siegfried Line, I managed to get into a platoon with a friend of mine, I believe. Mistaken ID in the T14. And this was my second game in this tank, and it wound up being just as hilarious because, well, you'll see in a bit here. Anyways, I wound up having another really good game, and knowing the weaknesses of this tank, again, it's got a good gun and really good mobility, but it has basically no armor to speak of. I knew I was going to be going to the field. I'm going to set up somewhere in the field, get shots on anything that gets spotted in the field, as it would be very easy for me to inflict some damage on the enemy tanks in this open field down here. There's essentially nowhere they can really hide. So I pulled up to this first bunker here. This one right in front of me. That's not too far outside our spawn, and I just decided to park and wait, as usually there's a lot of YOLO-tars that fly all the way across this field, usually in a scout tank or something, or even a fast low-tier medium. They just fly all the way across the they fly all the way across the field, get some spots and/or get spotted, and then they get blown up super quickly. So I fully expected that. That didn't really happen though. However, I was able to get shots on this Cromwell. Already getting some damage done this game. 2 shots into him. He's trying to pull back and escape. 3rd shot misses. Trying to line up my 4th shot. It goes way high, missing the Cromwell. 5th shot, and that's my 3rd pen of the game. Now that shot absolutely threaded the needle there for another damaging hit. 4 penning shots already. I've already done more damage than this tank has HP, which is nuts. That's how easy and fun it is. You can do damage in a tank like this. I forgot how honestly easy it is to grind a tank destroyer. The thing about tank destroyers is most of the time they have guns that are rated for 2 tiers higher than the actual tank itself, such as you've got the ISU 152 with the BL-10, which is a tier 10 rated gun on a tier 8 tank. You've got the M18 Hellcat, for example, which gets a final 90mm, which is a tier 8 rated gun, I believe. It might be a tier 7 rated gun, but it's a really dang good gun. And when the XP you earn is based heavily on the amount of damage you do, it's easy to do good damage in a tank destroyer when you have a gun that does well up to enemy tanks even 2 tiers higher than you, because it is a gun that is rated 2 tiers higher than your tank itself. So I was just having a heck of a lot of fun so far playing low-tier tank destroyer, starting a tank destroyer grind again. I didn't really think I would, but you know, things change. My mind changes as well. Bouncing a shot on the KV-1, I decide I'm going to go for the long cross-map Mobius flank, undetected, all the way across an open field, driving half a kilometer just to get in a better firing position. I half expected somebody to be over here, but that didn't happen. So I'm going to be repositioning up against the Dragon's Teeth, which are the concrete tank traps, the long line through the field. I'm repositioning towards that way. I'm keeping this hill close to me, though, so I can use it for hard cover if I need to. Aiming in and getting some shots in on these medium tanks in the middle of town here. Unfortunately, the accuracy of this gun wasn't great. I was not playing with a fully trained crew, unfortunately. as I didn't play very many games in this tank. I played enough games to research the next tank, which was the Hellcat at tier 6, and then I simply moved on from there. So I probably played only about 15 games in this tank, honestly. But they were pretty fun. I was pretty impressed with this tank. I liked it quite a bit. Now, the cool thing about this grind as opposed to several of my previous ones, I've got a pretty boss-ass crew in this tank. It has 8 skills and perks already, as I believe it was my original Chaffee crew, which I used to play the crap out of when the Chaffee used to be able to see tier 10s. That was a little over a year ago when I played it a lot. I hardly played it since I got heavily into mediums, of course. And I definitely didn't play the Chaffee after it stopped seeing tier 10s, even the VK-16 Leopard. So I've got a pretty nasty crew in this thing with 8 skills or perks for improving my own camouflage as well as my mobility a little bit. I believe I have... Oops, sorry. That's my alarm. I believe I have clutch braking and camouflage and muffled shot, as well as a few others. I think I have designated target or something, but anyways, doesn't really matter. So I've got a pretty boss-ass crew in this thing, but unfortunately, I didn't finish training repairs, which I believe is the 9th skill it's working on. I didn't finish training that before moving it from my premium tanks into the tier 3 tank destroyer when I started this grind. So I've been playing with untrained crews pretty much the whole time, but it's been totally worth it. I've been thoroughly enjoying this so far. And like I said, I forgot how quote-unquote easy it is to grind out tank destroyers. To be fair, I am using free XP. I believe it was this tank where I actually started using free XP to get to the final package and play the tank fully upgraded. Whereas whenever I do a grind these days at the tiers, if I have to play the tier 1, for example, like I did with the Chinese tanks, if I play the tiers 1 through 4, I literally play them through. I don't spend any free XP because the packages are so cheap. There's no point. Once you get to tier 5, sometimes the packages can be expensive, as is the case for me for these US tank destroyers, because I have never done any of the US tank destroyers, so their guns are actually pretty expensive to research. Even though I have the non-AT versions of these guns researched, like the 90mm M3 gun, because they're mounted on tank destroyers, they're considered a different gun. Anyways, back to the battle at hand. I'm the last tank alive at this point, getting shots on this M4 Sherman. He took out my artillery. I was hoping me and the artillery might be able to clutch it. This is the first time I've been spotted in the whole game, so I just kick it into high gear and I try to get the hell out of dodge. A very lucky blind shot takes off about 1/3 of my HP. So I decided at that point I'm going to stop. They'll probably figure I'm heading back towards the base, to the north end of the map. So I decide I'm going to stop, I'm going to turn around, see if I can throw them off their game, and maybe get another kill or two while they're heading in the wrong direction. So pulling back, I see the Stug 2. I line up the shot, take a nice shot, hits him right in the track. So I line up for one more shot, shoot him right in the lower plate. And that's when I get moving again. The T-34-85 spots me, so I figure, screw it, I'll fire a shot on the move. Thinking about firing another one, and I pull the trigger and I'm out of ammo! This has never happened to me before. I was not paying attention to the ammo count whatsoever. And I just started laughing at this point. I thought it was hilarious. I just couldn't believe that I didn't pay attention to my ammo count. This tank only gets 45 shells in it, so you don't really have to so much pick your shots as you have to do just be a little bit wary of it. And I was not paying attention whatsoever. I just wanted to get some damage, so I slung out a crapload of shots really early in the game. And I felt so bad because I had strong confidence in myself that if I had enough ammunition, I could have probably clutched this and gotten a hilarious Colabanos medal, which would have been really entertaining. So... but unfortunately, it is how it is. Like I said, this tank only has 45 shots. I ran out of ammo, figured I should give somebody the kill just to end the game so that they don't get a cap win. So, naturally, we lost that game as well, but I didn't really care. I was happy. I had a pretty dang good game doing 1748 damage. The second game I've ever played in the T67. So, obviously, I'm very impressed with this tank at this point, especially after these first 2 games, so... if you enjoyed these games, stick around. I'll do a full review of the T67 pretty shortly here, and I'll be jumping to the Hellcat very soon. In the meantime, thanks for watching. This has been Mobius Y. I'll see you next time.